Hello, I'm Curtis Smith, and Rick Daniel with me is the Bernalillo County horticulture agent. Very often he's asked the question, why did my tree die? What's killing my tree? And you have an example right here.
That's right. This little spruce tree, if you look at it, you see how you can almost see a pot around it even though there's not a pot there. The roots started circling, following the edge of the pot. You also notice how dark it is up further on the trunk. This tree was planted too deeply. It was left in the pot too long. It didn't have much of a chance. I think it probably died as a result of being too deep in the ground immediately. But if it would have been left, planted at the right depth, it probably wouldn't have lived a long time anyway.
It would have died either way. Both of these could kill it. The deep planting is probably the first cause.
That's right.
But it would have died anyway from these circling roots.
That's right.
So we've got some examples here that show what happened, don't we?
That's right. And if you look at some of these bigger trees, or roots, as they start getting bigger, they start taking up more space. They start digging into each other, and it just doesn't work. They'll cut basically the tree's circulation off, and the top of the tree will end up dying as a result of these roots just growing together like that.
This tree has essentially completely girdled itself.
That's right.
And that's because it was planted in a small container and the roots were circling?
That's right. If you end up getting a tree like, that's like this, you need to make sure, it's a good idea to kind of pull it out. And if you've got a real bad circling root problem, it's best to go ahead and, try to get a different tree. If it's not real bad, sometimes you can take a knife and just cut down through some of these roots and before you plant it, and you can prevent some of those problems.
Cut those roots and don't let them continue to circle because they can't straighten themselves out.
That's right.
See the same thing here, but there's another problem here as well, isn't there?
Right. On this tree, you notice it had the same, in a sense, the same problem that this little one had.
It looks like it lasted a lot longer.
It lasted a lot longer. I think this one was probably growing fine for a while, and then for some reason the grade got changed, or some dirt or something got pushed up against the trunk. Maybe new landscaping or something like that. This bark was not able to breathe properly. It stressed the tree. It started getting, insects up in the top part of the tree. The insects were probably blamed for killing the tree when the people saw it, but
it was whatever it was, the bobcat or the other piece of heavy equipment that pushed the dirt that really killed the tree.
That's right. That's something we see commonly. And a lot of times, people will plant a tree. They'll dig this big old huge hole, and they'll fill the hole back in, thinking this loose soil's fine. They'll plant the tree, even if they plant it at the right level. When they start watering it, it'll sink, and you'll get dirt coming in, and a lot of times it'll kill the tree that way too.
Same problem again.
That's right. Other problems that we commonly see are related to things girdling the trees, such as twine. When this tree was planted, it probably had burlap or something on it, and this twine was holding that on, and it was not clipped off, or the rope, or whatever you want to call this stuff. The tree tried to survive by putting out other roots and everything.
See, this rotted out a long time ago.
Right.
But it tried to root here.
Even on the top of this tree, there was, they hit it with some type of equipment or something here, damaged this, and that's something that will girdle a tree and will kill it. If you look at this one over here, we have a tree, and you notice how thin it is down here. Can you see the problem here? They had this tree staked with hose, and there was a wire going through it. And the problem is they left the stake on. You want to remove those stakes after those roots have a time to establish just a little bit, and remove the staking materials so the tree can grow and you don't end up with problems like this.
You got to remove that stake. It's
right.
only good for the first growing season if you have to stake at all.
Right.
If you stake, you're going to do some damage, but sometimes because of our winds, you need to stake.
Right.
For one season.
Right. And generally you don't use wire and stuff to stake them. Usually a good thick, wide strapping material or something that's pretty soft up against that tree is the best thing. You still can allow it to move just a little bit.
What do we have here?
This tree was planted, from what I understand, it was found in a 10-gallon plastic pot, and this was basically they had grown it in the can at first, and then they just planted it in the bigger pot, and then it died. Well, you know, it's pretty obvious that if you leave the can or something like that on it, the tree doesn't have much of a chance to develop a root system, or, you know, it's going to cause damage to bark or whatever. But this, you know, if you happen to buy a tree like this, even if it was living and you went and planted it out in the ground, eventually it's going to die.
You know, people think the can will rust away, but it's not going to do that very quickly. And they think burlap's going to do it. And that causes a problem too. You've got that here.
Right.
And Rick, you know, we see a lot of problems people do. Thank you for showing us all these problems that are so common.
You're welcome.